and welcome to Woo Sis, where we get real about the US, China, everything and everywhere in between. I'm your host Faye Kwan, and all eyes will be on Malaysia later this month as it hosts what many describe as the peak of its ASEAN chairmanship, the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Now, the spotlight, of course, will be on the possible arrival of US President Donald Trump, marking his first visit to the region since returning to office and fresh off his role in negotiating a ceasefire and hostage exchange in Gaza. Now, joining me to unpack and discuss what we can expect out of this, as always, is Professor Emeritus Datuk Thye. Hi, Prof. Wu.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you on again. Now, Prof, we've seen protests break out in Malaysia against Trump's visit. There's still the debate about having this red carpet rolled out for him. And the last time on Woo Sis, we also discussed a little bit about, or talked about Malaysia walking this tightrope between expressing moral disapproval for Trump's attendance, but also being pragmatic and protecting economic priorities. So how do you see that balancing act playing out now with Trump's presence in 2 weeks' time? Has anything changed for you?
Well, his coming this time should meet with slightly less opposition because he has produced a truce in Gaza, which I think we all must applaud him for succeeding in this task. The killing has stopped, at least for the moment. And in a way, we also recognize that it's the significance that ASEAN now stands in the eyes of the American in its Cold War with China.
Right, and talking a little bit about you mentioned that he has successfully stopped the killing for now, at least in Gaza. He's also making his attendance to ASEAN conditional on progress in a Thailand and Cambodia peace deal. There have been reports that he would like to be present and presiding over the signing of a peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia in its border conflict. And it's also been reported that one of his other conditions is to include Chinese officials from this ceremony.
You mean to exclude Chinese officials from the ceremony?
Yes. So I'm curious about your thoughts on this. How do you read this move?
Well, I must tell you that the Thai-Cambodian peace deal has most of the credit goes to our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim than to Donald Trump.
Yep.
But as you can see, if this is a condition for Trump to come, and his coming is of possibly high benefit to ASEAN, Malaysia is surrendering up that credit to Donald Trump. But to the extent that it makes Malaysia work harder to seal the peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand, you could say that's another kudos for Donald Trump.
Right.
What you told me really amazes me at the length that Donald Trump is willing to go in order to make a run for the Nobel Prize. And if someone is running for the Nobel Peace Prize and actually being able to bring stop to the conflict, one is certainly eligible for it. But in order to get it, you have to be seen as having achieved a durable peace, not just merely a ceasefire. What has happened in Gaza is still too early to tell whether the peace would endure. Because the Israeli cabinet, for example, certainly sounds like it is not very happy with the deal. And so now that they have their hostages back, that less positive things could happen. Like things may be peaceful in the Gaza Strip, but today I read about additional Israeli settlements in the West Bank. So it's a question. It's almost like one hand gives and the other hand takes. Now, that would certainly not be good for a durable peace. This continuing forms of colonialism by the Israelis in the West Bank.
Right. And you're right to say that this is, we cannot rest on our laurels for now. We have to see what plays out in the next year, at least what's to come, even in the next days of the ceasefire in Gaza. But going back to Thailand and Cambodia, this condition that Trump has laid out, how do you see it realistically playing out? Will he get what he wants again, and with China not in the picture?
Well, I think that both Thailand and Cambodia are glad to have peace between them. Largely, they realize that this conflict between them forces China to choose sides between the two, because we know that the Cambodians have been strong supporter of China in ASEAN decision making. It has, like for example, there was a year in which no communique was issued after an ASEAN meeting because some ASEAN members wanted to mention the South China Sea, and Cambodia objected to the inclusion of that item, and the result was no communique was issued. And Thailand certainly looks to China as a source of economic growth.
As with all other ASEAN
As
countries.
with all other ASEAN countries. So if China will have to choose between two combatants, one of them would certainly face a drop in economic income from China. So I therefore think that both countries are willing to stop the war anyway. And because of the war is really about something that is quite incredible, which has to do with the operation of the scam operation, of the scam activities that are on the Cambodian side, and which the Thais had shut down these operations by stopping the flow of electricity.
Yep.
So, given that the origin of the war, it is not something that is, should we say, as glorious as defending your soil. You know, we have a border dispute, and so that's what we are fighting over. My land versus your claim of my land. Whereas this is, you shouldn't disrupt my business activities. You shouldn't disrupt my illegal business activities. That is a cause not worth fighting over.
Right.
So I think both sides are only too glad to put it behind them.
The likelihood of us seeing the signing of a Kuala Lumpur Accord, a Kuala Lumpur Declaration, is very much something that we can look forward to then, based on your thoughts. And then that comes with Trump being able to take credit for perhaps yet another peace deal. He's also centered really his policy towards Asia, at least, around reciprocal tariffs and deals. Do you see, I'm curious, do you see, in terms of Biden's attendance in this ASEAN Summit, are you able to also lay out any sort of key differences or similarities in his approaches with the bloc as compared to his predecessor, Biden?
Well, Biden, in his term, did not attend a single ASEAN meeting. Neither did Donald Trump in Donald Trump's first term. The reason why Donald Trump is here, I think, speaks for the growing importance of one similarity between Biden and Trump. Biden and Trump, we always think of them as representing different schools of thought in American policy making. That is certainly true in the sphere of social policy, like for example, the Biden administration supports the diversity, equality, inclusiveness policies, DEI.
Yeah.
They support the equality of women's rights. They support abortion, whereas Donald Trump has certainly taken the opposite stand on these social issues. And on economic issues, they also differ. The Biden administration believes in strengthening social safety nets because his predecessor Obama had finally brought affordable health care to the poorer people. Whereas Donald Trump thinks that the welfare system just fosters laziness and make for a weaker economy. And he believes to a greater extent, maybe not believe as much as catering to the needs of the richest classes in America, like cutting welfare in order to have tax cuts for the rich. So on economic and social issues, we can see a differentiation. Now, do we see a difference in that Trump is coming and Biden did not come? I think that they have the same foreign policy. And I'll tell you why I think Trump is coming this time.
Right.
The same foreign policy that they have is summed up by the Biden's chief, one of his chief aide on foreign policy. He wrote, Kurt Campbell, pushes for the maintenance of American primacy in global affairs. So the word is American primacy for Biden. And for Trump, it is America first. So there's no difference between American primacy and America first. So both of them also recognize that the chief rival of today is no longer Russia, but China. On that, they are in agreement. Trump started the trade war in 2018, and after Biden came in, he continued. In fact, it was he who tightened on the export restrictions on high-tech chips to China. And when Trump came in this time, he certainly showed the use of tariffs became much more pervasive. It was just not on China, but on everybody.
It's all we've been hearing for the last few months.
Exactly. But then China, as you know, had the highest tariff until the stock market crashed. And that was when he called a stop and said, the present negotiations right now between US and China are not done. So US, China both realize that they are engaged in a Cold War. And when both are engaged in a Cold War, they recognize at the same time that this Cold War must not turn into a hot war between both of them directly. You can fight through proxies, but we cannot engage each other directly because both are nuclear power. So that is a case of mutual suicide. So they see their protection of ensuring no wars up between them is that they each would like to have a sphere of influence so that if there are clashes, it is in the edges of the spheres. That's where the proxy war can occur. Just like the US supply weapons to Ukraine, basically they are fighting the Russians on behalf of the Americans. Now, ASEAN has been the recipient of largesse from China, the Belt Road Initiative. It is, it's very nice when people come and help us in development. But along with these economic ledgers, we see greater confrontation on the military side. The 9-dash line in the South China Sea, where China has drawn its borders right up to the doorstep of Borneo, of Philippines, of Vietnam. So that is largely China's assertion of this is my zone of influence, and keep out, and the Americans are contesting that. This contest between them has gotten hotter, and ASEAN has really not dipped its hand about which side we are on. So Donald Trump has come calling to show that he is a good friend of ASEAN. We must understand that ASEAN itself has changed over time. When ASEAN was founded, the 5 original states, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, it was founded during the Vietnam War period. That was to stop the possible communist insurgencies that could be inspired into China. So we were formed as an anti-communist movement. But that has changed over time. We have become now more of an economic bloc than a foreign policy bloc, largely because we now have Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And all these three have extremely close ties with China. So so ASEAN is not automatically an ideological ally of the US. The US sees its confrontation with China. The way it explains it is, we expected China after WTO, as it gets richer, to morph into a democracy like South Korea and Japan. But China has maintained its communist ideology, and so that's why we now have this confrontation, protecting the world's democracy. That actually rings very false. It is more a recognition that China, unlike Korea and Japan, is militarily big enough to be able to challenge the United States. And so the United States is now trying to contain China, especially after China has not explicitly embraced Kissinger's proposal of a G2. Because what's a G2? The G2 was Kissinger's idea of why should there be conflict between US and China? Why should we try to take anything from each other? The rest of the world is bigger. We should combine together and bully the rest of the world together. There's a lot more to take out there than from each other. But China does not see the G2 necessarily as a desired form of partnership, possibly because it may have think that it could not endure. In other words, the Americans form a partnership, but with them being the big brother. And that was certainly not what China's idea of a partnership is. So given the fact that China has now become much stronger and now allied more closely with the Soviet Union than any time since Nixon went to China in 1972. So Trump is coming here to hope to solidify a relationship, or at least prevent ASEAN from tilting towards China. Because of the all, Indonesia is now a member of BRICS, and Malaysia and Thailand have applied for membership. So it sees this as an undesirable development.
Right, as you said, they are coming here to show that they're posing that they are a friend to ASEAN. But really, what do you think ASEAN can realistically expect to gain from Trump's first visit here? Do you foresee any sort of concrete deliverables? I know perhaps can expect countries to perhaps speak a little bit more or aim to hold discussions regarding tariffs. Or do you think this summit is just more about optics and symbolism?
Well, at minimum, it's a symbol of that ASEAN wants to be a friend to both parties. Malaysia welcomed Xi Jinping in April and now welcome Donald Trump in October. So we are even-handed in our approach. So I think furthermore, the trade negotiations are not done. The announcement of this 19% tariff on our goods, the details are still being worked out. In fact, the negotiations don't seem to be going well. I don't know what Minister Saiful says. The reason I say that the negotiations may not be going well is because around 2 weeks ago, the American trade representative say that if we don't make faster progress, we have to put on higher tariffs. So I think given the importance of ASEAN to American strategic consideration, we want the Americans not to go above the 19% that it has already imposed on us. So we should certainly be open to negotiation and be polite in our engagements.
When you say being polite, how can you elaborate a little bit more? How should Malaysia approach that, or ASEAN as a bloc, to engage with a Trump and his White House that is openly more skeptical to multilateralism?
Well, one thing to show polite means that when he wants to visit, we welcome him. Not that we think of him as a great person, but because he represents an important country for Malaysia. And more importantly, this is an ASEAN meeting. We, Malaysia, may have very strong distaste for Mr. Trump, but I think that some of the other ASEAN countries may not have the same, may not want to show the same degree of dislike. So we are doing this for ASEAN as well. And being the chair of ASEAN, we have to take care of the broader welfare of the community. Than just to show that because I'm chair, we'll show you the Malaysia way.
Right.
That would not be within our national culture either.
Right. It's all about Malaysian hospitality, isn't it? Thank you so much, Prof. Wu, for sharing your insights. That's all for this episode of Wu Says. Don't go anywhere and join us next week as we delve into another episode of Wu Says that will also be looking at the upcoming ASEAN Summit happening in late October. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and see you next time.